AOK Games for another hopefully interesting review on the Carenado Cessna 210 Turbo. Now, this was a $20 USD airplane exclusively available on the marketplace, and what I find interesting about this plane is its stated 27,000 foot service ceiling. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the plane details in general as we go ahead and look around at the textures on the outside and the features before we hop on in. So for $20, I think it's a fair price to say, point-wise, that this, for a Carenado product, like as all Carenado aircraft texturing is concerned, is top-notch. These, I mean, the lines here are spectacularly sharp. This metallic red I chose as the 8 liveries plus the one white that come with the package here for 20 bucks USD. They're different, but not all of them I don't believe are metallic. So I thought that this showed off the texturing quality that the Carenado models always seem to have. I mean, you know, these are... Oh, sorry, I banged into the propeller there. These are some of the sharpest Phillips heads that I have ever seen. I mean, there's no doubt about that in terms of the photorealism, which I would call these aircraft. I mean, the propeller textures are remarkable. When you come up to the spinner, I mean, you can even see the wipe marks on there from somebody who was trying to clean it off, or whatever that is. I mean, any case, it's really, really nice looking. The Cessna 210 is actually quite a utility bird. We've got, if I remove this here before we go inside, we've got the obviously pilot and co-pilot, and then we've got 2 additional rows of seating. So you've got that back there, and then there's a little cubby hole that you could stick maybe a person or 2 in the back depending on your payload. Now this aircraft was neat. I've tried to get this into and why I say neat, I have to prorate this statement, but I tried to get this into the career mode. It supposedly is stated that you can buy it for 740 some thousand credits plus, I think, a little bit. Not much more than that. I couldn't get it to show up at all, so I don't know if that's a planned feature later or I'm just completely inept at finding it, but I couldn't find it under new or used. So I don't know what that is, but supposedly it's available in the career mode, which, if you're a fan of the cargo and the passenger delivery on the 172, you know that it's a very it's an economical plane compared to a lot of the other aircraft, and this perhaps would offer quite a difference in performance. So with that 27,000 foot stated ceiling that this plane has, I figured what we would do is fly out of 2 November Charlie 0. And if I step away from the plane for a second, you can see we are in North Carolina. This is Mountain Air, and it is an 18-hole golf course, exclusive and I believe private. But what's neat about it is right after the end of that threshold there for the runway, there's a drop, like an immense drop. And we're not exactly at sea level here either. There's also a drop right after that uphill battle as well. So we're talking about being above sea level by quite some bit here. I'll look that up and I'll give you those specs once we get inside, in terms of how long the runway is and how high up we are. So to supplement that, my theory is I want to try to get this plane to 27,000 feet. And I guess it's not so much a theory as it is. If this can climb to 27,000 feet with full cargo, let me show you the picture here of our loadout. So as you can see, we are full up on fuel, 45 gallons per tank, left and right, individually. And we also have, within a couple tens of pounds, a limit that is basically almost at the absolute max. So we are above sea level at full capacity weight with a steep clip drop off right at the end of the runway. We're going to take off, and I am going to try and reach 27,000 feet in a 520 cubic inch, 6-cylinder turbocharged Cessna. So we'll see how that goes. Anyhow, like I said, the details here, really nice. Clickables as you would expect. Now, I wouldn't call Carenado a study level airplane in terms of failures, right? But the detail is all there. I mean, I've even gone ahead and flown this plane for a couple minutes, and it does have working circuit breakers, and all of these do seem to affect the systems on board, which is really neat to see. I also like how it comes with a 530 and a 430 navigation screen down here, but it's pretty easy actually to change that, because today what I would like to do is go to the built-in tablet here with the simulator, and we can turn on the PMS GTN 750 and 650. So we'll be using those today, but it's just that simple with the onboard. I really like that. So you can see, TDS is there as well. However, I like the PMS 50 GTN because the TDS, I have an issue. Like, I don't know if you can actually update the TDS in terms of the navigational data, right? The Navigraph stuff doesn't update, so I like the PMS because I don't have any issues with that. So that being said, yeah, there's a lot of features here that this aircraft has because it comes with all kinds of information, right? Like checklists, and you can go through the checklist. Pre-built in, Carenado exclusive marketplace purchase, so there's no issues with going through checklists and things of that nature to essentially keep you on track here. And I really like that. I like how it's built in and functional. That kind of makes it seem like about as thorough as you can get, right? I mean, it's all there for the taking, essentially, natively speaking. So let's get this thing prepped up. In terms of clickables, there are things that you could use. Doors, windows. Let's come back here. Again, same story on the inside. Some things are clickable, some things are not. If it is, I will be clicking on it. But in typical fashion, the texturing on this leather is beautiful. I mean, example, you can't click on the ashtray holder there, but for 20 USD, does that make or break an aircraft? In my opinion, it does not, but just taking price point into consideration here, just something that I like to find out whether it's yay or nay, yes or no, does it work or doesn't it work. Nice lights, right? And because this aircraft can go to 27,000 feet, if we travel forward here, we have oxygen, right? So you would plug your oxygen mask into these ports here, and you would be able to use the vents and everything. So the vents are not clickable, but the lights are. Of course, they are not functioning, only because we do not have battery power on at this point, but they do work. The sun visors, functional. Really neat to see that. So it's a mixed bag, right? Like, you've got these air vents here that you can't manipulate, but it's not like we have environmental controls with our fans blowing in our face and experiencing that through the simulator. So what does this really matter? I mean, to me, for 20 bucks, not too much. The details here, on the cockpit here, the gauges, they're really nice, as Carenado models always texture for, so that's good to see. I'm going to say that this is probably not, in retrospective, looking at these gauges, the pressurized version, because there is no pressurization knobs or anything to manipulate here. So it's just turbocharged with engine heat, and that turbocharger essentially providing the extra performance to get to hopefully 27,000 feet while we are using supplemental oxygen masks. So that's what that is. It could get cold if you don't have heat in the engine at 27,000 feet, but I'm just hoping to make it there. So, yeah, let's get our views and our angles all set up. We'll get out of here, and I am going to just climb to 27,000 feet direct off of the takeoff here, and we'll see how long that takes. I'll try to remember to start the chronometer down here so that we can get an idea of how much time it takes to do, and I'll go ahead and also give you that other information about the runway length and the altitude of this airport. So, be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, the information that I did want to give you was that this is a 2,900 foot lengthened runway with a 4,432 foot elevation. So, this being a turbocharged airplane should not affect the 310 horsepower 520 engine that we have, as well as it does come with a 900-mile range, so it has a lot of weight, 4,000 pounds that you can kind of fill up to, right, in terms of cargo and meaning passengers, baggage, fuel, whatever combination of any of the above you choose to do. But 900 miles, it's okay. It has 190 true knot cruise speed, so that would be in the yellow, but not into the red. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Kind of nice, kind of fast, so if it is available in career mode some way, somehow, someday, that I just don't know about, it would be quite an improvement over 172. So anyways, that being stated, we're just going to go ahead and start this airplane up. We'll throw the navs on, we'll throw the beacons on, the taxi lights, let them know we're getting to do our thing. Remember, we're at 4,400 feet, so we're going to come back just a little bit on the mixture as to not flood the engine out. Good old PMS 50 GTNs coming back on. We have our map. We will zoom out just a little bit with no destination in mind, and we'll throw our traffic radar on there. 6 nautical mile center or inner ring, 12 outer. Good enough. We'll throw on our GTX 330 Echo Sierra transponder, and it is on. There we go. Okay, so throttle, we'll make sure that we crack just a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and run up some primer on this thing here. I am impressed with the sounds. Carenado sounds are usually pretty darn good. By the way, this is the weather pod aircraft version. There is one with a pod and one without on the right wing. I will show you that in just a second. No, the yokes are not missing. I am just having them removed for our startup. Let's go ahead and turn the radar on standby, and we'll leave it on standby so that we do not nuke anybody. We'll bring it over to vertical profile. Of course, we have ranges in and out, so nice to see that. And let's go ahead. We'll prep for on. We'll start the fuel supply here to the engine after well, start the engine rather, right? The fuel supply is on in the default, but yeah, so that right hand wing pod there for the radar, there's the version without that. No idea if it causes extra drag or not. However, cow flaps open and functional. As you can see, we are full up on fuel, so that's 45 gallons per side, pulling from both tanks. And let's go ahead and get this thing running so we can throw in some flaps. We'll throw in the auxiliary fuel, and we'll hit the starter. Okay, nice shaking. I do like seeing that. That's always good. So we'll go ahead and throw in 10% flaps, and we will throw our pitot static on so that we make sure that we do not run into any icing conditions through clouds on our way up to 27,000 feet. We are going to be taxiing out that way because we will not be taking off moving uphill, at least not, at least not for our health's sake. Checking everything there, good to go. Flaps are deployed. And it's nice. We've got the digital engine readout there for the cylinder head temperatures and exhaust gas temperatures. That's really cool to see. Squawking 1, 2, 3, 4, but we'll go ahead and change that to 1200. Unicom. And as you can see, I have 10 minutes on this airplane. Well, turn the engine off. Whoops, daisy. Start this up. Okay, so we'll just give it a little bit of throttle. I like that it stalled out there. That was really, really neat to see. A little bit of authenticity with that. So, let's taxi this out, and I'll get to you right before takeoff. See ya in just a brief second. Okay, so now that we are just before the active here, what I'd like to do is make sure that everything is set up, especially with the fuel flow here. We've got our auxiliary pump on, beacons, taxi lights, pitot, probe, everything's clean on the outside. We've got our cabin air turned on, our barometric pressure set, and we'll come back and revisit the oxygen when we get a little bit higher. And I'm going to go ahead and schedule 20 degrees of flaps. And let's do a run up here to make sure that we are at 100% power, because we are very, very, very heavy, obviously. And let's just mess with the mixture. We are full rich now, but keeping an eye on our digital meter here, right in the center, right of where the yoke would be. So I'm going to put out just a little bit so that we can lean out into the climb and grow into the mixture as we climb, so to speak. And one thing I do have to say about this aircraft that I absolutely do like is the way that it feels taxiing. I love the weighted feel that this plane has. The squishy suspension, typical Cessna style, the amount of power it takes to get moving. Granted, we are at maximum takeoff weight. It's really, really nice to feel weight on an airplane like this, as opposed to just, you know, like a weightless quick exercise and making DLC that doesn't feel authentic. So everything's good. Let's bring our power up. I'll bring our yoke back in. We already have the auxiliary pumps on. Everything is good. And slowly bringing up the power so that we do not overboost the motor. And lots of left rudder with application of brake, because there is a ton of torque on this airplane, especially with 520 cubic turbocharged inches here of power. And requiring a significant amount of left rudder. Take a little bit of weight off the nose. And off just by the end. Little bit of stall warnings over the trees. And we'll avoid that range. So airspeed is safe. We are technically dropping a little bit, but that's okay because we are going into the valley at full weight. So with that, let's bring the wheels up to streamline this performance a little bit. And now we are climbing at over 500 feet a minute, which is good. And it's complaining about the gears. So let's go ahead and bring some flaps up. Did not like that we were at 20 degrees of flaps without the landing gear down. So as long as we are staying climbing, and this is one of the reasons, let me go back outside real quick. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to test this aircraft. There is zero room for margin here, right? Kind of reminds me of Lukla. There are no go-arounds at Lukla if you've ever been there. So if you want to try your luck there, as every enthusiast does, that would be Victor November Lima Kilo. very, very fun mountain in the Himalayas at the base of, well, I shouldn't say the base of Mount Everest, but it's where people fly into to go climb Mount Everest. But we are doing okay here. As long as we do not lose altitude, we're good. We are coming outside of the white arc on our airspeed indicators, so we'll go flaps up. And trim the aircraft out for some hands-off flying. Now would be a good time to turn the taxi and landing lights off. We seem to be okay. So mechanical issues, auxiliary pump can come off, and we'll keep an eye on vitals. So let's bring our propeller RPM down. Let's bring our power into the green. Right at 30 inches of manifold pressure. A little less. Get those EGTs down a little bit. So as I mentioned, we'll be climbing now to 27,000 foot full fuel and essentially full of cargo. So we are right at about 115 knots indicated on our airspeed indicator, and we are climbing at roughly 750 foot a minute. And I'll go ahead and I'll turn on our radar. Vertical profile during storms. Not that this is a bad day, but. And then what I'm going to do is essentially time this. So let's see if I can figure out how to make this work. Okay, so we took off and the chronometer is now ticking. 10 seconds in. Alright. Long way to go. So I'm going to climb out at essentially what is a reasonable rate, I would assume. Anywhere between 500 and I don't think we're going to get 1,000 foot a minute out of this aircraft all the way to 27,000. That seems highly unlikely for a piston engine. But Cessna at almost airliner altitude for cruise seems bonkers to me. I'm sure we're going to lose plenty of manifold pressure on the way up, so it's going to eventually slow down, and we'll just see how long it takes. These are real-world flying conditions, at least according to what Microsoft says. We've got some fresh air coming in the cabin. No difference between the noises, though, but it's okay. We'll have to close that for the heat that we need the engine to provide. If we're letting it all out at 27,000 feet because of that. Oh, yes, there is. Well, never mind. I guess I rest my case. There is a difference in ambient sounds between open and closed windows. I really like that. So we'll turn on our oxygen just so that I don't forget it, because, you know, I don't want to get hypoxic. And once I am up there, I will go ahead and give you a progress report on that. While we are at it, let's go ahead and pull some cabin heat. And everything is all right. So I'm going to try to stay in the general region. That way we can land at mountain air again. Also, it will be interesting to see how much fuel it takes to actually get to 27,000 with full cargo. So, just an exercise for the books. C is at 27,000. Okay, welcome back to the pilot in command position. Just like that, we're at 27,000. It's been a brief hair of 55 minutes for me. We we are still slightly picking up airspeed in this completely useless experiment. Barometric pressure is 29.92 over 18,000 as it should be. Temperatures are still all good, and our transponder is showing a pressure altitude of flight level 270. So we are there. The temperatures are all in the green, pressures are all in the green, and we are picking up speed because, you know, this is really, really high for a piston engine airplane full of fuel and cargo. Let's look at it outside. So that is 27,000 feet in a Cessna with supplemental oxygen. I mean, this is pretty remarkable that it was able to get this high full of cargo. So because we're so high and it's still picking up speed and leveling out, we are doing a ground speed of 170 knots. So that's really, really nice to see. It's picking up some good speed, but you know, our horsepower numbers here are way, way, way down. And that is, as you can see, pretty much the finest mixture settings for maximum performance that I can get. And we are running right on the 2,500 RPM limit of the propeller for the green arc. That is basically producing what we need, but you know, as this is pretty much useless as an experiment, I just thought it would be kind of like a little fun thing to do, so to speak, to see if this airplane with full fuel and full load from a 4,400 foot elevation airport could take off and actually reach that. And it certainly did. Very, very impressive. I also want to point out, too, so you see the throttle is pinned to the firewall. Right at about 19,000 feet or so, I started losing the upper deck pressure of the turbocharger, so it was losing manifold pressure from there on about all the way up to 27,000 here. So that's 25 inches of manifold pressure there at full throttle. So essentially we are now reduced to a non-turbocharged airplane, but we're at 27,000 feet and we're pulling, well, 8.65 gallons an hour, which I guess we are 20.1. I mean, we're 1.5 gallons to destination because we're not literally going anywhere in the thing here, but that's a really, really nice number. Now you could even lean this out some more and start picking up way, way, way better numbers here. I don't want to go too far because, you know, this is a balance between cylinder head temperature, oil temperature, and engine life, right? Now, granted, we are not going to be having any issues with this. I did this little experiment essentially as realistic as I could. I tried to maintain the green arc for the propeller. I tried to maintain the green arc for the manifold pressure, so I wasn't cheating with that at all. That's why you saw the time that you did, because I wanted to keep it honest. And yeah, it actually made it as if, you know, you would fly this in the real world with safeguarding your engine with as much, you know, fuel flow as possible to keep the cylinder head cool, as well as keep within the green arches of the engine parameters. So yeah, here we are. It seems as though we're still slightly picking up speed on the indicator there, but not enough to cause concern, essentially, right? But it worked. Let's go outside and look one more time. Absolutely remarkable. So if ever there was a way, or I could figure out, or anybody else in the comments section can figure out how to get this in the career mode, this is a massive leap over the 172. So what we're going to do is we'll just turn our dial a direction back here towards east. We're not that far from mountain air. And if I come down and I see how much fuel we used, I mean, it's really, really efficient, right? So we barely popped off the full notch there, which is really cool to see. So very efficient airplane at getting to this altitude. Again, mostly useless experiment, but 27,000 feet in a Cessna. I just had to see it for myself while reviewing these stated claims of performance, and they are there. Now, it probably would be obviously more economical and beneficial to literally just fly the plane at a regular person altitude, not 27,000 foot just for fun. But yeah, it's like a fuel burn versus performance ratio, right? Like if you're climbing at a slower speed and using more power to get to that altitude just to save fuel, how much range are you reducing from your total range to your destination or wherever you want to go, and having all those extra power settings at getting to a higher altitude as opposed to just staying at a lower altitude with a little more fuel burn, right? So really, really neat. Anyhow, let's head back to Mountain Air now, and I will see you when we are on final approach. Thanks for joining me today. Okay, welcome back down to planet Earth, and I just wanted to show you here this Mountain Air before we actually line up for approach, so that you can see the kind of terrain that this place has. And just off the nose, 1 o'clock is the runway. So that's quite the airport. Naturally, we're going to be coming in opposite and landing uphill. Okay, so now that we're back in the valley, we just have to make a base and then a final here, essentially. What I want to do first is let's go ahead and turn our lights on. We'll turn our auxiliary pump on. We'll bring our RPM on our propeller up. We've got our mixture full rich. We'll cut our oxygen off, as we would have taken the mask off by now. Let's maintain our altitude and basically come back to idle. Well, as much of idle as we can without getting the gear buzzer to complain. And we'll just do a right hand turn with a lot of left slip on the rudder to introduce some drag and bleed off some of this airspeed. And let's check that gear animation angle. Nice. A lot of chop around them trees there. These mountains and these updrafts, downdrafts. And there's our runway. Right at about 12 o'clock. Little low, but again, remember, we still have full cargo because we didn't drop it off anywhere, so it's going to take quite a bit of power to keep this bird airborne with full flaps here. And this is, again, not a runway that you want to stall out at. So let's go ahead and remove just a little bit of flap there. Keep the airspeed up, and I'm going to trim the plane now for hands-free flight. Do not want to be fighting the yoke. And I actually like to fly this approach a little high, because with that really large motor up front, it's hard to get your view. So if you come in high, you can essentially see better if you use a steeper descent path. Just like that. We'll go back to idle. And now we can see what's going on. So similar to the space shuttle, we have a lot of weight here. And when I level out here for the approach, it's going to really cause a lot of airspeed to bleed off, just like that. And let's get a bit on the brakes there. 945 feet remaining. And we'll steer a little right to get away from them trees. But we are back on the ground. We will pull over here. And then we'll park uphill. Make sure we don't scrape that generic Baron 58 there with our wing. The only thing I will say is if you notice the wheels, I'm not sure what's going on with those textures. It's like they're going from like wet to dry, or I don't know what that is, but it's something that I've noticed. Not a big deal, but just something to notice. Okay, park just like they are. Everything's good. Let's just let this engine run a little bit. Slightly higher than idle. We'll put the parking brake on, and the reason for that is to let the turbocharger cool off. We'll use the exhaust gases to keep the turbo spooled up so that it can cool off, as it were. Just a little bit above idle. We'll turn the auxiliaries off. We've already got our oxygen off. Taxi landing lights, pitot heats, flaps can come up, cabin air, all that's good. And beacon, leave the navs on. And I'll put prop full forward so that we can get some maximum cooling out of that. We will turn off our radar so that we don't nuke anybody that we already have nuked. Blink off. And let's come back to idle. Okay, gonna go ahead and pull mixture, pull prop, turn off the mags, remove the avionics, battery, and alternator. Let's hop outside real quick for a final review here. And so just like that, well, actually now that we're outside, you can get a better view of this tire that looks like it's a slick patch. Yeah, I don't know what that is. You know, clearly there's a difference, and it goes back and forth between shiny and not shiny. So, you know, $20 plane. It is what it is. I thought that flight for 55 minutes to 27,000 feet was really interesting. When you get up there, you really feel like you accomplished something. Man, I mean, wow, look at the leading edge here. I don't know if that's bugs or lack of paint or a combination of both, but man, the way that that's portrayed in the game really looks neat. I also like, again, you know, if you probably already noticed, but man, to make a claim about their quality of detail, look at how it even looks like the rivets. Sorry, I bounced into the plane. Look how the rivets and all the fastener locations are essentially, they look divoted, like as if somebody did some real sheetwork metal on that. But it's all here, you know, for 20 bucks, 900 nautical mile range with a 190 knot true cruise speed, 310 horsepower at sea level, presumably turbo normalized. Man, it's a nice bird. You know, it doesn't have the failures built in, but you know, if I'm on an airplane, I'd rather there not be any failures, to be honest with you. I know that's not the real world, but we're all just here to have fun. And for 20 bucks, I mean, the photorealism, barring just a small couple things, you know, non-clickables, it's all here. It's all here. What a great cargo ship to fly around. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down. Let me know what I didn't do. And I appreciate your time. So thank you for joining me here at AOK Games, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.